Councilmember Lauren Tolmachoff of the Cholla District. This meeting is streaming live on Glendale's Facebook and YouTube pages and the city's cable television station, Glendale Channel 11. Thank you for joining us.
Okay, are we ready to go? Okay. Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Glendale City Council meeting of August 22nd, 2023. Meeting is called to order. Roll call is not necessary. Everybody is here. If clerk would take note of that. Today, we're going to take things out of order just a little bit, not much. But we're going to start off with our invocation. We'll do our Pledge of Allegiance, and then I'm going to do a personal point of personal privilege, and that's to make up for what we did in workshop, where we should have allowed council to come up with topics that they'd like to have discussed at a future workshop. So with that, please forgive me, sir, for mispronouncing your name, because I'm sure I'm going to, but I'm going to do the best I can. The invocation today is going to be delivered by Saeed Mohi Yul Haq Husani. Did I get that pretty close?
Not bad.
Okay. He's with the Masad El Qasur Mosque. Sir, if you'd come up and we'll let you do that. And then, gentlemen, if you're wearing a hat, if you'd please remove it. If everyone please stand for the invocation. Remain standing when he's finished for our Pledge of Allegiance. I hope I didn't mess your name up too bad.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, the most compassionate, the most merciful. Honorable Mayor and City Council members, it is my real pleasure to lead the invocation for the City Council meeting today. O Allah, the God Almighty, please bestow upon us your mercy, guidance, and blessings. Please bless the city mayor, council members, city staff, and others who are sincerely serving the city of Glendale. Guide us to serve our community with peace, love, equality, liberty, dignity, and what's best in everything. We pray for peace in our city, neighboring communities, state, nation, and the world. Help us get along with each other with patience and understanding. Help us understand, respect each other's thoughts and opinions. Help us to be generous towards ours and needs of others. O God, we understand that every word spoken and every decision made here may have lasting effects to many. We pray for abundance of leadership, wisdom, integrity, clarity of speech and thoughts, inspiration and problem solving for general welfare of Glendale, its citizens, businesses, and everyone involved. Peace be upon those who follow the right guidance. Amen.
Thank you. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, with that point of personal privilege, I'm going to allow our council to bring up items of special interest that we should have done during workshop, but we were running late today. So with that, we'll start off with Councilmember Eldama.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I learned last week that through an internal appointment, the city manager appointed a new deputy director of economic development. With that appointment leaves a vacant downtown manager, so I'd like to hear from the city manager. It could be in a memo, and that would suffice, who our downtown manager is for downtown Glendale. Thank you.
Councilmember Hugh?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, mine is regarding fireworks, and I'm just wondering if anything the city can do to reduce the use of illegal fireworks. Thank you.
Councilmember Milner?
Nothing today, Mayor.
Councilmember Tomenchok?
Nothing, Mayor.
Councilmember Turner?
Not today, Mayor.
Vice Mayor? Microphone?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. I learned that the city will be receiving a state grant that will go toward the right-of-way landscaping throughout the city. And I'm very, very pleased. We will get more information about that, I know. But I did happen to see the palette of plants that have been offered by staff to beautify these various rights-of-way throughout the city. And I am kind of disappointed in what I saw. So I would like council to have an opportunity to weigh in and perhaps come up with a palette of approved trees and shrubs that could be used to beautify all the rights-of-way within the city of Glendale. Thank you.
Okay, and I have a council item of special interest, and that's to review the number of paramedics currently staffed by the fire department, to review if the number is appropriate for the current staffing model. I understand that overtime seems to be running rather high for the current model, staffing model, and also review all options for meeting any identified shortages. And if we could do that sooner, the better. Soon as possible would be great, without adding additional shortages to our staffing. So, we good on that? Okay, very good. So with that, we're going to go ahead and go to the consideration of the minutes from the August 8th 2023 voting meeting. Council members, do you have any corrections or additions to the minutes? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve August 8, 2023 minutes?
Yes, Mayor. I move we approve the minutes of the voting meeting of August 8th, 2023.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Hugh, a second from the Vice Mayor to approve the minutes. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Appears the ayes have it. Do have it. That motion does carry. We have no proclamations today, so moving on to boards, commissions, and other bodies. We will have Councilmember Melner read those appointments to the boards and commissions and other bodies. After he's finished calling your names, then we'll take a vote, and then I'll ask everybody to come up to the podium. Sorry about that. My phone's broken. I can't turn it off. So, anyway, Mr. Melner.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to make the following appointments. For the Commission on Diverse Cultures, Robert Escobedo, mayoral term expiring 1/31/2025. To the Community Development Advisory Committee, Oscar Gonzalez, term expiring 6/30/2024. And for the Library Advisory Board, Megan Tosh, mayoral appointment expiring 1/31/2024.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Melner, a second from the Vice Mayor to approve item 2. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Appears the ayes have it. Do have it. That motion carries. Any appointees in the audience that names were just read? Okay, come on up to the podium. I'll meet you up there. We're struggling here. Give us a break here. Okay. So if you would, hold up your right hand, and I'll make this simple. You just repeat after me. State I and then your name. I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution and laws of the state of Arizona, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, and defend them against all enemies, foreign and domestic. I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of my office according to the best of my ability. So help me God. Congratulations. Give him a round of applause, folks. All right, we'll move on to our consent agenda items 3 through 16. I was requested that we have presentations on item number 6 and item number 11, but we just do a regular consent agenda vote. Is that correct? Okay, so if we could, why don't we move items 3 through 16, and then we'll stop there and we'll hear presentations on item number 6 and then item number 11, then we'll take a vote.
Mayor, I move we pass and adopt consent agenda items 3 through 16.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Can we get a presentation on item number 6, please?
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and Council. The item before you is a request to authorize the city manager to enter into a service agreement with Relentless Beats LLC for production services for the live entertainment series in downtown Glendale. Relentless Beats will manage stage operations, provide talent booking and management, crowd management services, and equipment rental assistance, as well as bar operations. With the downtown campus reinvestment project underway, the Special Events Division has worked to develop a responsive plan, as was discussed at today's workshop. Relentless Beats is a leading concert promoter in the Valley with over 25 years of talent buying and event production experience. They've produced some of the region's most recognizable events, including more than 25 shows in the 4 days leading up to Super Bowl 52. Last year, the company booked 1,000 artists across nearly 500 shows, bringing in over 400,000 attendees. In consideration of the venue change for the live series, staff is recommending utilizing this experienced production company to assist in the execution efforts to successfully maintain the momentum of the live series. It is important to note that staff worked through the procurement process to solicit proposals from industry professionals, and Relentless Beats was the sole provider of the full services requested and was able to provide the needed services with the allocated budget. This contract is for 1 year with no automatic renewals. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, Ms. Peterson, I'm curious. Well, first of all, at least it's my opinion that this doesn't belong on the consent agenda because it's not a usual item, and the first time it was presented was this afternoon in a workshop. So I feel like at the very least it should have been under bids and contracts because it's, in my opinion anyway, not that transparent to put this on the consent agenda. It's $175,000 special procurement. There was no RFP process. And I did pull the supplemental request for economic development. I don't see this on here, but it says it's budgeted. Where in the budget was this? This wasn't itemized as something that economic development was going to be pursuing.
Yeah, Mayor, Councilmember Tolmachev, so we acknowledge it's part of the expenses for putting on the special event, so it was within the general fund that's already allocated to the operating budget for special events. So the division in the past has utilized different ways of putting on the events. Under this contract, it'll allow us to do the same that we've done, so we have it within our general fund. It didn't require a supplemental for more funds to be able to produce these events using this contract.
Okay, Mayor, I do have another question. So we were presented today that there was going to be eight different events. So that comes out to almost $22,000 per event. And that's not including the talent, or does this include the talent? They
Mayor,
pay the talent, or how does this work?
Mayor, Councilmember Tolmachev, it includes the talent booking as well. Everything is
Okay.
all inclusive. It's full service.
All right, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you, and can we get presentation on item 11?
Mayor, I move we,
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Oh.
Presentation first.
never mind.
Go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. This is a request for the city council to authorize the city manager to reclassify existing positions within the organization that have either experienced a change in duties and or responsibilities or require a grade adjustment to better align either internally or externally with the market. A little bit more specifically, about 80% of the positions that you see on the reclassification list this evening are more of an issue of a market. These 80% of the positions are either from transportation or water services, and it's critical that we stay competitive in the market for these critical areas in order to attract and retain employees and keep these services intact. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mayor. Ironically, Councilmember Aldama brought up what I was curious about, because I did look through the entire list of reclassifications. I did not see anyone reclassified as the Assistant Director of Economic Development, and I'm a little curious about what happened to the downtown manager, and if that was a reclassification of a person. I believe the downtown manager was reclassified as the Assistant Director of Economic Development. Then who is the downtown manager? We haven't received any information on this, so.
Mayor, Councilmember Tolmachev, in our budget presentation for economic development, there were various reclassifications that took place. One of those, the downtown manager in the system is considered an economic development program manager. That position was reclassified to a deputy director position, as well as the economic development officer was reclassified. The assistant director position was reclassified actually to a lower position of an operations specialist. And it was really to change the whole operating structure of the department when we brought on the new divisions. And so the deputy director of economic development that's overseeing downtown development as well as special events and arts and culture is still operating in that dual role of maintaining the downtown manager role. We do have a supplementary position that's in our existing FTEs, which is an economic development specialist that will be assisting in downtown as well, so that we don't leave downtown behind, certainly in our operations. In fact, it's increasing the amount of efforts we're putting in.
So as of right at this moment, though, the downtown manager has a lot of other responsibilities. I mean, assistant director doesn't just oversee narrow. I mean, it's an assistant director position. It's broad. I mean, he's responsible probably for a lot of things within economic development. So at this moment, we don't have a dedicated downtown manager.
Mayor, Councilmember Tolmachev, so just to understand what his dedicated role is, it is currently overseeing the staff of special events, overseeing the staff of the arts and culture division, and then downtown management with the assistance of an economic development specialist that assists with downtown as well. He is still running all of our downtown merchant meetings. He is still the point of contact and still operating in that role at this time.
Okay, but my question was, we don't have the council has spent a lot of time and energy and discussion on a dedicated downtown manager, and we've got now City Hall being vacated. And so my concern was that do we or do we not have a dedicated downtown manager? It sounds like we don't. You're looking for somebody for that position who will also, the assistant director, you says, overseeing a lot of special events, arts and culture. I mean, there's an arts master plan. There's a lot of other things going on. So who's responsible every day to get up and try to work downtown?
Mayor, Councilmember Tolmachev, that continues to be that deputy director position, along with the assistance of an economic development specialist as the additional role that's focused and continues to be operating here in downtown. So we ensured when economic development moved to Westgate as the suite where the economic development department is at, that person is down here in downtown.
Okay, I would just say that wasn't relayed to us when it's on the same sheet. I did see the reclassification, didn't have any problem with it, but at that time it wasn't explained to us that the narrowing of the attention that downtown would receive because of the other responsibilities this person would now have. So I would appreciate next time having a better understanding of what you're pursuing before we actually approve it. Thank you.
Mayor,
Go ahead.
question for, not for you, Ms. Peterson. Thank you. For Mr. Brown. Mr. Brown, part of the reclassification is that you bring employees into parity with probably peer cities. Can you explain to us how often that happens, and how long have these positions that you have laid in the agenda have been out of an appropriate pay rate that meets parity? 2 questions, sir.
Sure, Mayor and Councilmember Aldama. So there's a couple of reasons why we might reclassify. Sometimes these positions they become vacant, and the departments need to either upgrade or downgrade what they're doing with that position. So some of these positions on here are vacant, but to your point, particularly in the area of transportation and water, we found in the spring, and this is well into the budget process, so the budget was already in motion. It was late to get it to the budget to council, but we did find that positions in those 2 areas were low in market. So the process would be to do a job study, and that takes about 30 to 60 days, depending on what we're looking for. We'll do a job study, check the market, and then we'll recommend a new pay grade. And that's what we've done in this case. And those incumbents that are in those pay grades then would experience increases to their pay to get them more into alignment with the market, which is what we're doing here as well. So as far as how long those have been, it probably depends on how long the individuals have been in those positions. But I can say at least these probably came to us sometime in May, sometime April, May, sometime in the spring when we began to look at these. And those salary adjustments are going to be made as soon as council makes that approval.
Mr. Brown, thank you. A couple more questions. Is it, because we just wrapped up the budget session, we approved it, we're back into session again. Is it not, I guess, fair, to lack of a better word, to employees to wait for this to happen slightly before the budget and then approve it in the budget? And then July 1, that pay rate increase occurs.
Mayor, Councilmember Aldama, yes, absolutely. And when we're made aware of that within the time frame that we have to get that done for the budget, we'll get it done. And I believe we did do that to some extent in the budget. It is a timing issue. If the budget is already out, the books are printed, or at least the drafts, and they're to council, then we have to wait to bring that to council at the next possible time, and that's now. So.
Last question, or a next question is, with these reclassifications, does that put these positions at midpoint, above midpoint, and how does that affect employees in the same position in the same department?
Mayor, Councilmember Aldama, what we try to do is keep them at the same range penetration. So let's say, it was a lower pay range and they were at the 60th percent of that pay range. We want to work to keep them at that same range penetration so that they don't fall behind in terms of their years of experience, because they're placed there based on experience, essentially. So it depends on where they are in their range. We want to keep them consistent with that, if that makes sense.
It makes sense. And the reason why I mention that is the worst thing we can do is reduce morale by a reclassification that means well, but then a byproduct of that is it affects another employee in the same position that's been there just as long with the same experience that now is paid less than the person that just came in, or maybe not been there as tenured as him. So I trust at this point that you have all that figured out, but the citizens don't know. When we reclass, they're like, somebody's just getting a bump and raise. It's a bonus, but it isn't. But I do have concerns when we reclassify, and I hope that you would go back and, because I know you did some, have these all done within the budget process. However, if there are some employees whose rate of pay or salary is so out of whack that, we probably shouldn't make them wait. But
And Mayor and Councilmember Dama, thank you. You're right, and we do look at that. We do try to make sure we're keeping that equity where it needs to be. And the one thing I would like to let council know, every 2 years we do a class and comp study. We are doing that class and comp study this year, so my staff is working on that now. And the reclassifications that we've done, the market adjustments we've done now will help us with that class and comp study too. It'll put us a little bit further ahead because again, class and comp study results will come to council, and that would be put into effect next July. So just wanted to advise council of that as well.
Thank you, Mr. Brown,
Thank
for
you.
answering my questions. I appreciate you.
That seems like so long ago. We've already got a motion and we already have a second on these items. With that said, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Here's your ayes have it, do have it. That motion does carry. Moving on to bids and contracts. Item number 17, Ms. Bauer.
Authorization to enter into a linking agreement with Elan Tech LLC for furniture and related services. There are no speaker cards.
Very good. Can I get a motion to approve item 17?
Yes, Mayor, I move we approve the linking agreement with Alantonic LLC.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Tomachoff, second from Councilmember Hugh to approve the recommended action. Any discussion on this motion? Hearing none, this is a roll call vote, starting with Councilmember Aldama. How do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Hugh, how do you vote?
Aye.
You know what, Councilmember Aldama, your phone or microphone wasn't.
Yes, thank you. Aye.
Okay, Councilmember Melner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Tomachoff, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Turner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Vice Mayor, how do you vote?
Mayor, I will explain my vote.
Go ahead.
As is my habit and practice. This and every other item under bids and contracts is a 5-year contract. I do not approve 5-year contracts because there's no continuity of oversight provided by council. So I vote nay.
Vice Mayor votes nay, the chair votes aye. Motion does pass. Ms. Bauer, item 18, if you would.
Authorization to enter into a purchase agreement with Mountain States Pipe and Supply Company for the purchase of Itron products. There are no speaker cards.
Can I get a motion to approve?
Mayor,
Go ahead.
motion to approve item 18, motion to approve purchase agreement with Mountain States Pipe and Supply Company.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Aldama, second from Councilmember Hugh to approve the recommended action. Any discussion on this motion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Councilmember Aldama, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Hugh, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Melner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Tomachoff, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Turner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Vice Mayor, how do you vote?
Nay.
Chair votes aye, the motion carries. Consent resolutions. Ms. Bauer, would you read consent resolution item number 19 by number and title, please?
Resolution number R 23-74, a resolution of the Council of the City of Glendale, Maricopa County, Arizona, amending the general plan map of the City of Glendale, Arizona by approving General Plan Amendment GPA 22-13 for property located east of the northeast corner of 87th Avenue and Glendale Avenue. Ordinance number O 23-28, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Glendale, Maricopa County, Arizona, rezoning 2.47 acres located east of the northeast corner of 87th Avenue and Glendale Avenue from A1 agricultural to PAD, planned area development, for development plan entitled Residences at Westgate, amending the zoning map, providing for an effective date, and ordering that a certified copy of the ordinance is recorded.
Ms. Perry.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. This proposal for the general plan amendment is a minor general plan amendment, as well as the rezoning application to from agricultural to a planned area development. The intent of the proposal is to provide a regulations in place that will help with assisting an infill project. This will work for me. Okay, sorry about that. So once again, the request is to amend the general plan land use designation from medium density with a maximum of 3.5 dwelling units to the acre to high density to a maximum of 20 dwelling units to the acre, as well as rezoning the site from agricultural A1 to planned area development to allow for uses that are allowed within the R3 straight zoning classification and some modifications to the development standards. The subject site is approximately 3 miles from City Hall, and it's located east of the northeast corner of Glendale and 87th Avenues. Here's an aerial photograph just to give context to the subject site and the surrounding areas. As you can see, that it's largely surrounded by single-family residential, and to the east is a existing church. Once again, here's the request before you, where we're asking council to approve the resolution as written in the staff report, and as well as the rezoning application approval of the ordinance with 2 stipulations. Okay. Here's a conceptual site plan and what the applicant is intending to develop on the site. It's approximately 37 townhomes that would meet all the requirements that staff would traditionally look for as it relates to amenities, appropriate setbacks, and heights. And with that, Planning Commission heard this case on June the 22nd of this year. There were no one there in opposition of the request, and Planning Commission recommended approval before council this evening. And with that, it concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any of your questions.
Thank you. Do we have any speaker cards?
No, sir.
Okay, any questions? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve item 19 on consent resolutions agenda?
Mayor, I'd just like to, point of order, do we need to do a public hearing on this or not?
Nope.
No? Okay. Do you mean to do the resolution and the ordinance? Okay, I'm sorry. I move we adopt resolution number R 23-74.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Tomasoff, second from the Vice Mayor to approve items 19 on the consent resolutions agenda. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Here's you guys have it, do have it, that motion carries. Moving on to ordinances. Ms. Bauer, would you introduce item 19, ordinance number 023-28?
Mr. Mayor, I've already introduced both
Yeah,
those
it's
items. They were
same
together.
item.
Oh, okay, well, that's the way it was wrote up. Okay, so, we don't need to have her speak again, do you? Okay, can I get a motion?
Yes, Mayor, I move we adopt ordinance number 023-28.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Tomasoff, second from the Vice Mayor to approve recommended action. Any discussion on this motion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Councilmember Aldama, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Hugh, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Mellor, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Tomasoff, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Turner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Vice Mayor, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, that motion does carry. New business. Ms. Bauer, would you introduce item 20?
Authorization for the city attorney to retain outside legal services for litigation services related to
Say
PFAS.
PFAS. Mayor and Council, PFAS is the acronym for the names that you'll commonly hear, forever chemicals. And those forever chemicals are being found in the groundwater across the country. And at this time, cities are beginning to look to the chemical manufacturers to address the issues associated with them. At this point in time, I'm requesting the council authorize me to enter into a litigation services agreement with outside counsel to protect the city's interests.
Any questions? Can I get a motion?
Mayor, I
Go ahead.
move we authorize the city attorney to retain outside legal services for legal services regarding PFASs.
Item number 20. Okay, second? Anyone?
Second.
Second.
Okay, Councilmember Aldama, second the motion. Approve recommended action. Any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote. Councilmember Aldama. How do you
Aye.
vote? Councilmember Hugh, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Mellor, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Tomasoff, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Turner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Vice Mayor, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, that motion carries. Okay, this is what most you've been waiting for. Item 21.
Consideration and action regarding the city council action on June 13th, 2023, directing the city manager to enter into the amended and restated development agreement.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before you this evening is a request from my office as it relates to an action the council previously took on June 13th of 2023, which notably was not a new contract, it was an amendment to a contract. And I want to provide some background before we can dive into this. But what's before the council this evening is that notably that the Arizona Constitution provides a referendum power that allows qualified electors to refer legislation that's been enacted to a popular vote. And in this instance, that is what's before you this evening. After the meeting on June 13th, 2023, where the council directed the city manager to enter into an amended and restated development agreement with Via Resorts. Referendum petitions were pulled, signatures were gathered, and under the law, it is qualified for a popular vote. Some background on this, one unique element of this referendum, and I want to provide this background is because, again, while there are elements of the question of the referendum that I think
lacked clarity, which may have caused some confusion. I want to walk you through that briefly. Notably, again, the question focused on the amendment to an agreement that already provided for all of the elements that were questioned in the referendum. So, for example, I'm going to read you what was provided to the citizenry. The authorization to enter into, and this is the question of repealing, the authorization to enter into amended and restated development agreement with Vi Resorts, LL, new development agreement will put in place a new agreement between the city and Vi Resorts developer. The new development agreement supersedes earlier agreements. Further, 2 government property improvement leases, GIPLETs, were prematurely recorded. The property is now owned by the developer, and the parties have agreed to the new development agreement, which among other things reflects that the developer owns the property. Glendale shall not initiate any changes to the current PAD zoning that may adversely affect the company's use of the property, except at the request of the company. Glendale will provide expedited review of plans. Glendale shall purchase the property and issue a GIPLET with a 25-year terms, and at the conclusion of the GIPLET, sell the property back to the developer at the same price. The developer will operate the project at the property for a continuous period of at least 25 years from the completion of construction of each component of the project. The developer may use the property for any legal permissible use, subject to zoning permitting in terms of the agreement and GIPLET leases. Everything that was cited in this was already allowed in the agreement. It was allowed in agreement that was entered into in September 28th of 2020, where there was no public opposition, there was no public groups that opposed it, nobody spoke against it. And now we have before us a referendum that speaks to the elements of the original agreement, not the amended agreement. Since the original agreement was entered into, the development activity that has occurred on this property is that there was an ownership change. The property is now owned by Vi Resorts. However, the original agreement provides that the ownership change can occur. The question questions the premature filing of a GIPLET, which the council already knows had already been addressed, as it was done inadvertently. And the original agreement provides that it won't even be recorded until 90% of the completion of construction occurs. There's also been a change of features in the size and the scope of the project, and there's also a parking spaces lease agreement that's been on the black lot. It was approved by the council and recognized by the Arizona Cardinals. It didn't change any of that. Due to the changes, Vi Resorts asked that amendments be made to the development agreement. The primary changes was for the ownership change. They wanted to have people recognize that they were the owner in the document. So it was changed from Epic Resorts to Vi. There were references to what the Crystal Lagoon would be, and those were changed to a lake. Vi had acquired additional land, but none of that land was actually impacted by the development agreement, but they wanted to show that that was part of their development, and so they included it. Inclusion of that land would not impact the GIPLETs that are allowed under the original agreement that was entered into in 2020. There's also an acknowledgement that there was the premature filing and that was addressed and that was cured. So there was an acknowledgement of that. There was also the acknowledgement of entering into a parking spaces lease agreement, which I referenced. It also anticipated a completion date of November 7th, 2024. It added a section regarding live events and how the city may actually regulate the live events to the betterment of the community in the area. And then it amended the language regarding the funding because there was the transfer of ownership. However, since that time, that was unnecessary, but in good faith, Vi Resorts moved forward in that regard. The council action in June was to approve a motion to authorize the city manager to enter into the amended and restated development agreement with Vi Resorts. And as I indicated, since that authorization, a referendum was pulled, it's qualified for the ballot, and the city council has the right and the responsibility to place the item on a future election, or it could actually repeal the action that is the subject of the referendum. In effect, you eliminate the question that would go to the voters. And as I previously mentioned, as I went through point by point, the referendum addresses the amendment. It does not challenge the original agreement. In fact, it can't challenge the original agreement because it's over 3 years old. But recognizing that the original agreement may continue to serve the interests of the parties, who are the parties to the contract, the city and the developer, and recognizing that there is an expense associated with a referendum election to the city, also recognizing that the economic cost of having a large project effectively held in limbo while the question on the election is considered, and the original agreement was passed in 2020 without any citizen opposition, without any local group opposition, or any public outcry, and recognizing all of these things, I am requesting the council this evening take action to repeal the action taken at the June 13th, 2023 council meeting, wherein the council authorized the city manager to enter into the amended and restated development agreement. I've been asked, as it relates to repealing, what's the difference between rescinding versus repeal? And I wanted to share that with the council because that was a question that was presented to me. Uniquely enough, most definitions consider those terms the same. There's not much different. But what I found in terms of any sort of meaningful difference is rescind means, in this case, that the Second Amendment to the contract is now void, it's not used, or no longer applied. But revoke or repeal means that the Second Amendment no longer exists. So importantly, that's why we're repealing it tonight. That no longer exists, the Second Amendment. And we will rely on the original agreement as we entered into in 2020. Importantly, this action has been noticed as a separate new action, not a reconsideration of the previous action. So with that, I'm available for any questions that you may have. Otherwise, I ask that you repeal the action taken at the June 13th, 2023 council meeting, wherein the council authorized the city manager to enter into the amended and restated development agreement. Thank you.
Any questions?
Mayor?
Go ahead.
Yeah, just a comment. It's always great when the city recognizes that something isn't right and you make it right. So that's always great in personal lives and in government. However, the city attorney said a few things that I just want to clarify. This is a significant agreement. Significant, it's huge, impacts all citizens. And oftentimes, those decisions are made, yes, in a public meeting, as the attorney said. It was in a public meeting. Nobody had any opposition. Nobody was concerned about it. Nobody spoke at it. But that's the issue with government, is that we have these meetings and we encourage you to get here. But it's not until somebody makes somebody aware of something that then they do have opposition. So I want our citizens to know that just because we had a public meeting doesn't mean you knew about it. And we need to do a better job when we have these large agreements like this to notify more citizens that come out and give us input. But to say that we held a public meeting, there was no opposition, it's all good. No, I disagree with that. They are very complex for us, let alone citizens, to grasp what's going on in an agreement in their town. And so I just want citizens to know that please stay engaged, please get involved, and the city should do more when we have these large agreements and developments that citizens have more input. Thank you.
Mayor, if I could, thank you. Just to speak to our city attorney, Mr. Bailey, it was 2020, and we know 2020, there was a lot going on in 2020, but I want to make sure that the public goes, and I see that the media is here as well. And I think all of us up here are very proud of the fact that we were open to the public, we had public hearings, we were in this very room so we could spread out. But even though that the action was taken in 2020, the public was notified and the public was welcomed at all of our council meetings to come into this room and speak to the council. So just so that there's no question whether there was availability of public to be able to address us and ask questions and oppose the original action taken in 2020, the public was at a lot of our city council meetings in 2020. We met in this very room, and I know we're all proud of the fact that we were open and engaged and allowed our public to be here and speak to us during those times when we had the pandemic. So I just wanted to make sure that it was on record that people came here, we had a lot of people come here and speak to us in 2020, and that this was a public meeting and the public was allowed in. Thank you, Mayor.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. Several things. We are elected by the people of Glendale to make decisions on their behalf. In the case of Vi, which at that time was Crystal Lagoon, there was a great deal of due diligence that was done by staff and presented to council with regard to this project and the ramifications of this project to the community. This was not voted upon at that time in a vacuum. Council was well aware and did whatever research and homework needed to be done to understand this project fully. And if I remember our executive sessions, there were many questions posed by council as this project was presented to us. I will say this now. I supported the Vi project in 2020 when it was called Crystal Lagoon. I support the Vi project in 2023, now owned by Vi Resorts. This is a good project. This will deliver many, many sales tax dollars to the general fund of this city that will be used for all kinds of projects, from parks and libraries to public safety, transportation, you name it. Those will be dollars that will be well spent in the service of every citizen in this community. And the fact that Worker Power, and I notice there are many representatives of that group here tonight, that Worker Power chose to raise this as an issue 3 years after it was originally approved, makes me just a little suspect about your motives. I, for one, will continue to support this project. I will continue to speak out for this project. This project will bring over 1,200 jobs to our community. It will bring somewhere in the neighborhood of $10 million, and that's a conservative estimate based upon the old economic study that was done when the project was smaller. It will bring an excess of $10 million in sales tax revenue to this community that will go into our general fund. So all I want the group that's involved in this to know is that this was a good project when we adopted it 3 years ago. It's a good project now. And I hope you would take the time to learn the facts about this project before you take any further action. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, can I get a motion? Item 21. I do have some speaker cards that we're going to get to in a minute, but I need a motion.
Mayor,
Go ahead.
I move that we approve item 21, the motion to approve the direction to the city manager regarding city council action of June 13th, 2023.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Now
Mayor,
we do have,
point of order. That action, I just want to make sure I heard it correctly, is to repeal the previous action, correct?
If that's the way, that's not what it said in the agenda, but I can say it that way.
Yes, if you'd actually frame it in the context that it's to repeal
Okay,
that.
then I'll rephrase my motion. I move that we approve item 21 to approve the direction to this, to appeal or to repeal the action that the council took on June 13th, 2023.
Second.
okay, I have a motion from Councilmember Mellon, a second from the Vice Mayor to approve the recommended action. We've had discussion. Now I'm going to go to folks in the audience. We've got about a half a dozen or so cards. All show in support of this item. So if you don't have the need to speak, I will call your name, just wave off and say, I don't need to speak. If you do want to speak, then come on up to the podium. I'll need you to state your name. I'll need you, if you live in Glendale, give us the district that you live in. If you don't live in Glendale, just give me the city that you live in. I don't need your actual address, okay? And then we need your full name. So forgive my ability to pronounce your name, but I believe it's Abdel Gabar Mohadian. Okay, you got to tell me how close I was. Was that pretty close on your name?
Yes, good evening, everybody.
Sir, pull the microphone down closer. There you go.
Yes.
And then state your name and what city you live in, or if it's Glendale, what district.
My name is Abdul Jabbar Muhammad Muhammadian. I'm living in Glendale since February 2006. Address 8528 North.
I don't need your address.
Okay, thank you. I am homeowner. I am a farmer who pays taxes every year. I was confused when I saw big luxury resorts getting bigger property tax break from the city of Glendale. I hope that the city is careful in the future coming with the hand out like big property tax breaks at luxury projects. Thank you so much.
Okay, Alondra Morales Sanchez. Again, same thing, if you'll state your name, if you live in Glendale, we don't need your address, just the district you live in, if you know it, if not, the crossroads, and then you have 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Alondra Morales Sanchez, and I am an environmental justice organizer with Poder Latinx. I live on the border of Glendale, but I do work with the community and represent the Latinx community in Glendale. Additionally, we have canvassers who live in Glendale, and so I'm here speaking on behalf of the community. So, hearing about this project, I heard several people say different things. I heard the mayor say they're representing the people. Well, we are the people coming to let you all know what we think. I also heard another rep talking about the community input. Yes, I know you all had the opportunity for the community, but like the rep said, some of us were not aware. Some of us just found out. And so that's why we are here now, and I think it's fair that if we are reconsidering this motion, that the community is allowed to speak on that. And so I know the state attorney or the city attorney mentioned the water issues prior to a different project, and so my concern here is water. We know that the lagoon will use 32 million gallons of water in the first year alone. Water is already scarce in Arizona. We are already trying to figure out what our communities are going to do because of the lack of water and the scarcity. That is a prior need to our survival as a community and as human beings for us to have water, right? We're made out of water. We need water to survive. And if this is approved with the irresponsible water usage and how much it takes up, it would really affect our communities, our survival, and our health. We saw this year in Scottsdale that they ran out of water, right? We've seen other areas in Arizona that have been running out of water. Now, we need to prioritize really our survival when it comes to this. So I am here to speak and say that this is not the best use of our water resources right now. And it would impact our communities greatly. And you all have this open public meeting to get our input. Now I am asking you all to listen to us and to what the communities are saying. And I appreciate the opportunity to come and represent my community and let you all know what we think.
Thank you. James Deiler.
Hi, my name is James Deibler. I live in Phoenix, Arizona, and I will tell you about this project. The Lagoon Project will bring a lot of jobs within the city of Glendale. It will bring in a amusement park near Westgate Entertainment District. I think this project will be great for our community. And I don't want the project to be on the ballot because it's not qualified. Thank you for the time and consideration.
Thank you, James. Kevin Smith, you're up. You have 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Kevin Smith. I canvassed and spoke to hundreds of voters in the extreme heat throughout Glendale.
Sir, do you live in Glendale or?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I live in West Phoenix.
Perfect. Okay, go ahead.
And I canvassed and spoke to hundreds of voters in the extreme heat throughout Glendale about this project, from voters near the project site to central Glendale and all the way past Bell Road in northern Glendale. The folks that I spoke with had various issues with the project, from giving the tax break to a luxury resort, to the water usage issues, to noise caused by the potential 100 live events per year at the open air amphitheater. I'm glad that we are considering repealing the new development agreement, especially given that this would mean the amphitheater is no longer a part of the agreement, which is something that many residents close to the project were concerned about. These residents were very worried about both the traffic and the noise that this amphitheater would bring. The over 5,500 residents who signed the petition and many more will be watching as this project proceeds. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Jordan Greenslade.
Hi, good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Jordan. I live in Phoenix. So I'm a senior field director with Worker Power Institute. And originally, like we've said before, we were surprised when the updated development agreement was placed on the agenda about a day before the vote. It really gave residents little time to provide comment on the updates to the changes to this new project. And as the fact sheet that went out a couple days ago, the Vice Mayor sent out to many residents, since it was first approved, the scope and the size of the project has drastically changed. And there needed to be a new agreement to allow things like the 100 live events a year at the open air amphitheater. And therefore, we felt residents should have more of a chance to weigh in on this project, especially given its size and the amount in property tax breaks it was receiving. While we still have a lot of questions and concerns, we're glad the city is repealing the new development agreement and thus eliminating the live events at the open air amphitheater from the project. Many residents were concerned both about the traffic and the noise impact. A lot of them expressed that they're already dealing with traffic 8-9 weekends a year from the Cardinal Stadium, and this was going to greatly increase that. We look forward to making sure future actions related to this project, including upcoming votes on more entitlements the developer is asking near the unincorporated areas of Glendale, really take into account the concerns of the residents. Thank you very much for your time. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Sean Foley.
Hello, my name is Sean Foley. I do live in Glendale in the Alhambra district. I'll repeat that. My name is Sean Foley. I live in Glendale, and I've knocked on hundreds of doors to collect signatures for this referendum. One of my main motivations is that I have a daughter, or pardon me, son in school, and I know that our schools are really lacking in terms of funds and much needed city revenue that could be used to fund the public school system. I am also very concerned about the traffic the 100 live events was going to bring excuse me, to the city. I know that some change, like more traffic, is impossible to avoid, but I'm definitely glad to see that we're making changes to the project. It would be extremely disappointing to me if the city council were to turn around and pass a similar development agreement in a few weeks, providing that today's vote was just to avoid the will of the voters. Many of us still have a lot of questions and concerns around the project and look forward to healthy public discussions in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Maria Elena Santana? And then following her, Carolina Martinez.
Hola, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es María Santana y vivo en la 47 Avenida y Bethany Home. Fui uno de los residentes que firmó la petición de Bay Resort y la excepción de impuestos. Firmé porque era importante para mí que le diéramos a la gente la oportunidad de opinar sobre estos temas. Nuestra opinión es importante porque ya sea que esté a favor de la excepción fiscal de 25 años o no, para un resort de lujo, los turistas que van a ir al resort solo estarán ahí unos días, pero los residentes tendrán las consecuencias durante los 25 años completos. Sería una cosa si el complejo simplemente cambiara el nombre, pero agregarían un montón de habitaciones de hotel y el Gran Teatro. Me alegra que esta votación elimine la parte del teatro y espero ver cómo el Consejo Municipal recibe los comentarios sobre este proyecto en el futuro. Muchas gracias.
Gracias. Thank you. And are you Carolina Martinez?
I'm just going to translate for her if you need me.
I'm sorry?
I was just going to translate for her. Her
Go ahead.
statement. Okay, she just said, hi, my name is Maria, and I live on 47th and Bethany in Glendale. Said, I was one of the residents that signed the petition about Bay Resorts and the tax break. I signed because it was important to me that we give people the chance to have a say in this kind of issues. Our input is important because whether you're in favor of the 25-year tax break for a luxury resort or not, the tourists who go to stay at the resort might be only there for a few days, but residents will have to deal with the consequences for the full 25 years. It would be one thing if the resort just changed the name, but we're adding a bunch of hotel rooms in the big amphitheater. I am glad this vote would remove the amphitheater portion, and I look forward to seeing how the city council takes in feedback on this project going forward.
Thank you. Okay, Carolina Martinez.
Hello, my name is Carolina.
You'll need to pull the microphone in front of your, there you go.
Hello, my name is Carolina Martinez. I live at 47th Ave and Bethany Home in Glendale. I had originally heard about the project when it was first announced a while ago as Crystal Lagoon. It at first seemed fine to me, although that was before I knew about the big tax breaks from the original project and the expected 100 live events at the open air concert venue that was added to the new agreement. An open-air venue with concerts year-round could profoundly impact the surrounding areas. I'm glad that these live events provision will be removed with the repeal of the most recent development agreement. I look forward to seeing how this project moves forward, and I hope that in general the city can take a closer look at the use of giblets for luxury developments that don't benefit the community a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I had a motion from Councilmember Melner to move this item. Who seconded that?
Vice Mayor Clark.
Vice Mayor Clark, okay. So we have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll
Mayor?
call vote.
Mayor?
Councilmember,
I wanted to make a comment.
you want to make your comment when you vote?
No, I want to make it now. I've been hearing tonight comments regarding the Vi Resort and how there's luxury resort that's getting a big tax break and that there's no benefit to the public. And I want to make this perfectly clear for the public. There are major benefits financially for the public. This property initially produced about $1,800 per year in property tax. Under the new provision, again, this is under old estimates, not under the new development that's now changed somewhat. The property tax could be as high as $6 million per year. Of that $6 million, there is a giblet that may provide up to $1 million reduction in that tax. So the net property tax to the school districts, to the city, to the other districts will be about $5 million. That's a pretty significant increase, a benefit for the public. In addition to that, there is approximately an additional $23 million based on old figures that are now will be updated soon, of approximately $23 million in sales tax, hotel tax, etc., that will benefit the entire state. The state, the city, the counties, the schools. So there's a significant benefit for the public by this project. And I just want to clarify that it is not true that there is not a benefit for the public financially. That the $1 million to get $28 million is about a 2,800% return on our investment. I think it's a very good and very wise investment, and I think the public needs to understand that that's really what this project is doing. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, roll call vote. Councilmember Oldama, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Hugh, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Melner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Tomachoff, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Turner, how do you vote?
Mayor, I'd like to explain my vote.
Go ahead.
Well, one thing I want to do is acknowledge the activists that were able to come in organized and get enough signatures to refer an issue to the ballot. That's not easy work. I've done a lot of work in referendum and initiative, probably more than anyone in the room, and I've worked hard to protect initiative and referendum rights for residents. But to have those rights, it's incumbent on particularly the leadership of the movement to make sure that what they're doing and how they're representing the issue to their followers and to the public, that it is accurate, that it is in reality what's going on. And it just concerns me that that hasn't been the case here. In hearing those of you who canvass door to door in Glendale, and which all of us up here have done plenty of as well, and hearing why you were doing it, it really raised me concerns as to whether you understood the real issue at hand. I guess I'm honored at the amount of interest that Phoenix residents have in how we do things in Glendale and how we decide our policy. I am pleased that there were maybe 3 residents that spoke that were from Glendale. But it's important to understand there's several misconceptions about what's going on here that not only you have, but you've also spread throughout our community. The property tax forbearance was not for the project as a whole. It was only for, in essence, the liquid part. What was first called a lagoon is now being called a lake because it's been downsized. That was the only area currently that is in consideration. Originally, they were also going to build a museum of sorts, the original developers were going to build almost like a rock and roll hall of fame, which might have been nice, but that we would considering as well, but that's no longer on the books. All that's really left on the books is the lake. It was never for the hotel rooms, the restaurants, any of those spaces, the luxury resort. None of that was ever part of the tax abatement, the property tax abatement. okay? It was just for the water portion. And that's all that remains that we were looking at. The number of jobs that this project will create is huge, and it's jobs for people of all levels of expertise. Everything from housekeepers and busboys up through accountants and managers and bartenders and everybody. Thousands of jobs out there will come forward from this, and that is a huge thing for our community. And I have a hard time understanding why an organization called Worker Power would want to stand in the way of that. And the other point that I was going to make, I've lost. The water was a point as well. We do have water issues in Arizona, and I've spent a little bit of time and energy on those as well. The water issues are important, but they're also localized. The water issue that Rio Verde has out on the outside of Scottsdale on the far northeast part of the valley are not the same water issues that other parts of the valley do or don't have. This project is occurring within the Salt River Project. The Salt River Project reservoirs are full to the brim. They were so full they had to release water down the Salt River this year. So it's also within the Central Arizona Project as a backup source. Now there is stress on the Central Arizona Project, but it's important to understand how different pieces of this all fit together. And the water in this area lays with the land. And we can't just take that water and move it somewhere else simply because we want to, or because we think newcomers ought to have priority over those people already here, or that that for some reason recreation isn't important. We feel like all of that's important. Jobs, employment, recreation, that's what we're building for our community. I think this council's been responsible. The other thing I just remembered I wanted to bring up was about the amphitheater. I think you've been misled if you think that us repealing the amendment will take the amphitheater out of the picture. The amphitheater is part of the original agreement. All that was on the table in June when we approved this was, and this is really almost ironic, it was an effort for us to better be able to regulate the noise or loud music that might come from events there. But now we're having to back that away tonight. Now we'll work with the developers of to continue making this a great project for our community. I just implore you to better understand what you're doing, and I implore our residents to better understand what we're doing. We're all available to answer questions. If we don't know the question, we'll go find the answer. This is an interesting exercise, but it was hugely unnecessary. And with that, Mayor, I vote aye.
Vice Mayor, how do you vote?
Mayor, I would like to explain my vote.
Go ahead.
I don't want people to go away being confused. What we did tonight, and the city attorney will correct me if I'm wrong, what we did tonight was to repeal an amended agreement. It amended the original agreement, but the original agreement still stands. That has not been repealed. And it is important for you to understand that we still have the original 2020 agreement for the development of that project. So when you use the word repeal, we only repealed the amended agreement, not the original. And with that, I vote aye.
All right, thank you. There's a lot of stuff that I would like to say, but I don't want to belabor this. The original estimate, and I don't know how accurate that is. Maybe you can correct me, but the city of Glendale has approximately 2,000 employees, and all you got to do is just be in Glendale, and I guarantee you'll see them all over, whether it's police or fire, folks working on the street, sanitation, garbage. They're everywhere. Via Resort is going to be almost. I heard an earlier number that was quite a bit lower, but what I remember hearing was close to the amount of employees that the city of Glendale has. Nearly 2,000 additional jobs in this city. And every one of you wearing a white shirt that says Worker Power, I would think you guys would be excited about the opportunity that might be a whole lot closer to your house, where you can actually get a better paying job that's going to bring lots and lots and lots of revenue into Arizona. A lot of people will come here to vacation where, in fact, in the past, maybe they went to California. This is an opportunity that we get to showcase our city. We get a chance to raise the boats, if you will, the high rise, or high tide rises all boats. That's what's gonna happen here. We have a great opportunity to make this city better and really showcase it. Glendale is a fantastic place. We've tried as a council, all of us, to create more employment in this city so people that live in Glendale or near Glendale don't have to drive clear to the east side to go to work. We want people to work in our city so you have a better quality of life. When you leave your house, you're not spending an hour and a half driving to work. Maybe you'll spend 10 minutes. And that's what we're after. We want you to have a better quality of life. We want you to be able to purchase those things that we all want, and a lot of times we just have to do without. So again, I would hope that you would embrace the idea of more jobs, better opportunities, a better life, and a much higher quality of life for the citizens of Glendale. With that, I do vote aye. That makes the motion pass unanimous. Our next item is council comments and suggestions. Councilmember Aldama.
Yep. Thank you. On August 12th, there was a significant fire here in the district. It is located on 62nd Avenue and Myrtle, right next to the high school and the National Guard. I'm really proud of our police officers and our firefighters. Our police officers for securing a boundary around the fire and keeping all of the commuters safe from that fire. You could see the smoke from all parts of Arizona. It was probably 20 stories high, the plume of smoke. And I'm proud of our firefighters and our automatic aid for the cities who came out and joined us and put their ladders around the fire and extinguished it as soon as they could. I'm also really proud of the work that our staff is doing, going back and cleaning the debris that was caused by that fire. That amount of water and that amount of soot will cause havoc in our community. That same night and that next morning, I met with our staff, Mr. St. John, and we had some really good conversations, and we talked about how those fires impact our community. And I asked a question. I asked, how often do you all go out and inspect those types of businesses? And they said often. And they had just recently inspected this building or this site, and they did a really good job on it. Unfortunately, there was a fire and it affected the community, but I'm really proud of our city staff, every one of you, especially our public safety who worked together to extinguish that fire and get our community back in order and get the traffic moving along. So really proud of our public safety. Thank you.
Councilmember Hugh.
Nothing, Mayor.
Councilmember Melner.
Nothing today, Mayor.
Councilmember Tomachoff.
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Councilmember Turner.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to, I guess, echo the words of Councilmember Aldama regarding our firefighters and our police department. I was returning from Prescott the night that fire broke out. Sun hadn't quite set, and I was coming south. I was still the other side of Sunset Point, for those of you that have driven, and I could see the plume of smoke from that fire. And I was my phone was ringing from residents that were sending me photographs of the flames and all of that, and I was praying that no civilians, none of our residents, none of our firefighters, none of our police officers would get hurt or killed in it, and because I know that that's the risk they take on our behalf. And I was just pleased to know that didn't happen. I was incredibly impressed that a fire that size was kept contained for hours. A fire that's being fed by fuel. I mean, it was grease and oil and all that kind of stuff. It was kept contained for hours and didn't spread to the whole neighborhood, which it could have. That no lives were lost, and I think we did have a firefighter that went to the hospital but was released that evening. I pray that, obviously injuries, I think it was smoke inhalation or something. So just impressed with the level of expertise and the commitment of our public safety professionals that could make that happen. And then the cleanup afterwards, as Councilmember Aldama mentioned, involved many different departments here at the city to control that. Everything from traffic control, of course, to sanitation and water and all of, many departments to make that happen, and just shows how well our departments work together and how well we all come together in a time of need like that. So just very proud of of all of those departments I mentioned, and they're symbolic of every department we have here at the city. We've got a city full of great employees that are really dedicated to providing the best they can for the residents that we have. So it's tragic that it happened, but boy, did we ever handle it in a very professional and competent manner, and that's just something we all can be proud of. Thank you.
Vice Mayor.
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
And I have nothing at this point. Next thing is citizens' comments. Mr. Divler, are you the only one? You know the rules, sir.
Hi, my name is James Dibler, and I live in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm here today to discuss a few concerns regarding public transit in the city of Glendale. I would like the city of Glendale to increase transit frequency on weekends from 60 minutes to 30 minutes. There is a lot of people taking the bus on weekends by going to church, work, or football games. Finally, I would like 59th Avenue, Olive Avenue, and Peoria Avenue bus routes to go into Glendale Community College, no parking lot, to pick up students on weekdays, morning and afternoon rush hours only. We need 6 morning trips and 5 afternoon trips into GCC. Thank you for your time and attention to this important matter.
Thank you, James. Being there no further business before this council tonight, I'd like to thank everyone for attending. If there's no objection from the council, we're adjourned. Thank you.